Good morning and welcome back to the adventures of Mac Anthea. Today is December the 23rd, so I suppose it's Christmas Eve, and I suspect this is probably going to be our Christmas video. Now today we're going to, as you probably guessed from the title, we're going to go and do a bicycle ride right up into the Sierras of where we live. You may have seen in previous videos that we do a lot of bike rides, different places, northern Spain and down by the coast and that. But in actual fact, we've got some excellent bike rides right in our own backyard. So in a minute what I'm going to do, I think I'll turn you around. We're down at the farm today rather than starting at the farmhouse because it's a better place to show you actually where we're going to. So I'll spin you around and talk you through the next bit. Okay, so as I said, we're down at the farm and we're going to be travelling right up to those aerials at the top there. Now it is a straight route up. If I walk you along here, okay, you sort of go from right over there, you go up, round, and you probably can't really see it, but there's sort of a road that goes right up to that sort of U you can see up there in the mountains. Now actually up there in that U there's actually a fire watcher station and a helipad, so that's probably going to be our first main stop and a point of interest for you to see. But we're going to go all the way up that trail. Now the reason we're going up this trail is I've just rebuilt Anthea a new e-bike from scratch. I'll talk a bit more about that as we go along. Actually, the reason for that, this is the third attempt we've had at getting a decent e-bike, and we need to test it on some real life situations. So what I'll do is I'm going to take you over to the bike. I'll quickly run you over on the bike. I had intended to do a separate video on it, but I must have pressed the wrong settings on the camera, messed up about 34 clips of video, so that isn't going to happen. Needless to say, if you leave something in the comments and you do want it to know how to convert this bike, I'll put together a video for you. Okay, so this is the new bike I built for Anthea. We started from scratch again. We bought a brand new bike, a rock rider bike from Decathlon. I suppose it's entry level mountain bike, but it is top of the range in that entry level because it's got because we've got the extra power of the motor on everything. We've gone for the hydraulic disc brakes. We've got the aluminium frame to cut down on weight, and we've actually gone for the 9 gear. Here purely because if we'd gone for the 21 gear we would have lost a lot of gears because we could only have one ring chain on the front. So we've got all that and basically cut down a weight and have a bike that's a lot more suitable for the trails, because what's happened as we've gone through the bicycles, we've had a break for cycling, Anthea about 15 years and me about 30, and as we've got more and more confident and better on the bicycles again, we've been tackling more difficult trails, and the previous bike just wasn't up to it. She was able to put far too much work in it. So what we're running now basically is we're running this rock rider bicycle, aluminium frame, hydraulic brakes. We've done some modifications here so it's more suitable for long distance. We've extended the handlebars up. I've cut these a little bit shorter for Anthea because this was the male version. They actually do a female version of this bike. And we've added a suspension stem onto the seat to try and, because it's obviously a hardtail, to try and make the ride a bit softer. Moving along quickly onto my bike, I've got a few things to test as well. I've put suspension forks on here, which even though I've tested, I haven't tested in some serious conditions, and I've also got some new V-brake bars and everything I want to test, and front brake pads to test up there as well. This is a serious ride. Don't get me wrong, you're not bouncing off boulders down the sides of mountains, but it is seriously steep, serious loose gravel and rocks underfoot sometimes. So okay, I think without further ado, enough rabbit from me. I think what we'll do, we'll get on with the ride, and I'll gradually talk you through the bits and pieces as we go along. I will show you the interesting points. We'll have a few stops and view back at the farm from up above so you can get some idea of height. It's going to be about 17 degrees today, but we've got a nice cool northwesterly wind, so it should be quite pleasant for biking. We're starting off about 700 metres above sea level. Up there at the aerials is 1,240. Okay, so enough babble, let's get on with it. Okay, so we've just travelled a little way up from the farm, up the tarmac road, and now we're turning off, and this takes us up to the Sierras above our village. Our village has a population of about 250 people, but the actual municipal of where we live is actually 25 square kilometres, and most of that is made up of the Sierras, which is actual natural park. I shall indicate to you when we're going up which actual part the natural park starts at. So I'll get a little further up and then I'll bring you back in. Okay, that bike must be better. Anthea's just overtook me, so there goes speedy away there. This trail, when I first come here 20 years ago, was just a muddy track. so to speak, civilization really hadn't hit here when they got here. And in a lot of ways I did prefer it that way, but hey, that's another story. Here now we've got bits of concrete on the bends and that way it used to wash away. We've got barriers, you know. It's really a lot safer and a lot, you know, and all been reformed. So it does make for a pleasant bike ride. Incidentally, we also tested a new thing today, twin microphones. I noticed you put no slot on the videos, you can hear what I'm saying, but you can't hear what Anthea is saying. Now, whether that's going to turn out to be a good thing, I don't know. You might end up with a lot of extra puffing and panting on the audio. I might end up having to edit out a lot of potty mouth in the audio, so we shall see. Okay, starting to get a little bit above the village. I'll try and give you a little flash of the video, but I'm not going to stop once we get up to this bend. There you go. So we're just getting up to it now. Okay, so we're coming up some buildings here in a minute in the right here. When I first come here, I was told, and it's meant to be fairly true, this was actually going to be converted to a golf resort. I mean, where the hell you were going to play golf up here, I really don't know. You would have needed ropes and carabiners and all sorts to get up and down here, so I don't know. But there's meant to be all log cabins put around here and everything. Luckily, the planning got refused. It poured it on the time when, you know, alcaldes, mayors could get away with almost anything, and that got us a stop put to it pretty quick. So thankfully we haven't got a golf resort up here. Incidentally, I used to actually come up here a lot. When I first arrived here about 20 years ago, I used to come up here a lot on my motorbike and explore all this. In those days, nobody had any interest in coming up here whatsoever. I had the whole Sierras to myself basically up here. Ironically, what stopped me from coming up was the Spanish in the area discovered a new invention called the bicycle. When I first came 20 years ago, the Spanish didn't know the difference between a bicycle and a cement mixer. But they must have won something, I don't know what it was, the Vuelta or something like that. And everybody went out and bought a bicycle and went up into the Sierras. So I found myself I was in a situation where I was going around the corner and meeting, you know, 10 cyclists on the wrong side of the road flying around, telling me to be careful. You know, so it sort of spoiled it a bit for me. And there's a lot of years when I didn't come up. But of course, like all fads, a lot of those mountain bikes and that I used to meet up on the trails are now been relegated to gather dust at the back of the garage. And even though you still get some Lycra Lunas around on this trail, it's nothing like it was back then. So we're taking to do a lot more trails. I also know the trails off by heart because back in those days there was no signs or anything. You had to learn the trails and drive down them and find where they all went. And there's actually a whole network of little trails far quicker than the road routes going towards all the villages and everything, which are probably the ancient trails that the village used to use with donkeys. Anyway, enough babble. I'll go a bit further on and I'll bring you back in. Okay, I've just quickly brought you back in for this point here. I don't know if you can see the post there on the left and right here. This actually used to have a chain across, and when it was impassable at certain times, they used to put the chain up. And this is incidentally the point where the actual natural park starts. There is no building whatsoever allowed above this point, even though there is a few old ruins and that. Yeah, no building here at all. This is all protected, which is nice. See, we're getting pretty high now. In a minute, I'll stop when I find a good viewpoint and I'll give you a shot of the farm below. Okay, so there's the village over there. We're getting above it. You can probably just make out the trail in various different places down there on the way down. And I'll try, it's always hard to point out things on the camera. Now I can't do it, so what I'll do is I'll put an arrow in later. But down below there you can actually see the farm with the digger down there and the caravans. So we're going to carry on. We're going up to this U up there, which looks pretty direct, but it isn't. It's quite a windy road. We've got some nice treed area to go through as well. So we'll carry on up there and I'll bring you back in as and when. Okay, so we're starting to come back through a nice little wooded area here. Particular point I like along the trail. A little bit of shade when you want it. Sometimes just stop here for a drink or whatever, and a break. But today we're making good time and the bikes are working really well. If you're new to the channel, you probably don't realise we're running the 750 watt Bafang motors. We've both got 800S displays in black and white because they seem to work better in black and white displays in strong sunlight. So we've gone for that. We're also carrying a lot of a lot of weight, mainly photography stuff and video stuff. You probably hear a lot of people bark on about it on YouTube. Most of my weight's YouTube and filming stuff. Well, it is. But that is what the bikes are designed for, or what I've designed the bikes for and built them for. So if they can't cope with the weight, then they're really not much good. And I'm going to have a rethink. But they seem to be coping well with it. We're going to get higher and higher. So a quick spin of the view as I go by, but I'm not going to stop. Yeah, higher and higher we're getting. Okay, and that went a hell of a lot quicker before. I don't think we could have done it quicker than four-wheel drive. There's a limit of how fast you can go, and you certainly don't want to be churning everything up with your four-wheel drive wheels. But yeah, we wouldn't have done this any faster in a four-wheel drive. We've made good time, and it's not been too hard on us all the bicycles by the sound of things, but this is probably the easiest bit of the trail. So we just come around this bend here, and then we'll be at the helipad. Don't expect too much. It's a bit of a flat ground with some rocks around it. And the fire station, and again, don't expect too much of that. It's a little hut. But we'll stop here, have a little chat about it, taking some of the views back down the Almanthora Valley. And we bought the DSLR and the tripod today, so we'll try and get some photos, although I think probably the air's probably still a bit hazy to get some decent shots. But anyway, here we go. Here's a helipad, like I said, nothing to get excited about. Okay, so there it is, beautiful view down the Almanthora Valley. This is a view down to the west or northwest. Up there you can see in the distance, you can actually see the wind turbines there. They're actually at the mouth of the valley. It's probably about 30 kilometres away, believe it or not. They're placed there because obviously beyond that is the plains of Bafa, which goes right up to the Sierra Nevadas in the end. And they're open plains, and the wind flies across there. And then when it hits the valley, it sort of funnels down to the valley, and the pressure increases even further. So it's the optimum place basically to put the wind turbines to get the most wind. You know, even now today we're on a still wind. It's about an 8 kilometre an hour wind today. You can actually see they're still turning. So it's pretty good. You can also see why they use this as a point for the fire watch station. You can see all the way down this end, view all the way across to the other side, over there. And in a minute I'll take you back the other side and show you the other way. So here's a fire watcher station. Like I say, nothing to get excited about. They basically sit up here. They've got a Land Rover with a load of strimmers on the top, or bush cutters if you're American, on the top of the Land Rover, and they sit here and look out for fires. And then if they see a fire or they get called out to a fire, they rush off towards the fire, and they create a fire break. They trim all the bush and everything out of the way to try and stop the fire. If that doesn't work and the fire gets too much out of hand, it starts to jump across the fire breaks. They call in the helicopters then with you've probably seen them with the bigger water bags on the bottom to drop water down on them. You can see various different, what they call the special balsas, they're like water tanks down there below. And they're allowed to take water from anywhere, these helicopters, if they need it, to put out fires. So you'll see them just hang over these big balsas, dangle the bags into them until they fill out of water, and lift them off and carry them off and put out the fires. It's quite spectacular to see. And for Spain, it's one of those odd things that they really excel in and is really well organised. But I suppose you think about it, it's got to be. Now, this is closed now. We're out of fire season. September's a particularly dangerous time. They've got things what they call tormenta secas, which is dry storm, where you often get thunderstorms, lightning hit the ground and no rain. And that's what starts a lot of the fires in the stormy season. Unfortunately, this year we've had no sort of stormy season. We've had no real rain again. We're desperate for it. So that hasn't really been a risk, and there hasn't really been any major fires. So I suppose there's one positive side to it. So I'll take you across the other side and show you down the other side of the valley. Okay, so there it is, off into the other direction. You can see right off into the distance, those mountains you can see in the distance. Just the other side of that is actually the sea. And from the top, if you get a really clear day and you look across that way, you can actually see the sea from up near the aerials there. But we haven't had a clear day like that in quite some time. We really need like 4 or 5 days of quite cold weather and this haze to go out of the air, and then you can see the sea, and I can't remember the last time that was. So we were hoping to get some good photos. They might be okay, but again, the air's quite hazy, the light's not brilliant. But we'll take some photos just in case, because when we come back down we'll try again and it might be worse. So we'll take the opportunity now while we've got it. Okay, so we've left the fire watching station, did a bit of drone footage, did a little bit of photography. Now we're going down the side of the mountain to get round the back. This is sort of east-southeast facing. It's quite a flat bit. I mean, this looks a little bit steep, but it's quite flat all the way along here. And in a minute, we're just going to stop at another little viewpoint as well, which is quite nice. It overlooks the valley down, going towards the coast. Just going to stop a second. Anthea's just fallen down and look back there. Yep, she's back going again. I'll stop there, have a little view across there. That's quite industrial across there, and over towards the quarries of Mac Anthea is the name of the place across there. But still quite nice, nice view from the distance there. Are you okay? Okay, and we're off again. We're rounding the corner, you can see now. You can really see right down the valley there ahead. You can tell there's a little clouds of smoke going up here and there. Everybody's burning all the trimmings off the trees. Okay, so I'll bring you back in when we get to the viewpoint. Okay, so we're up at the viewpoint here. Try and turn you around without falling off this step I'm on. Hell of a view from here. All the way across. You see an industrial estate unfortunately in the background, but at the end of the day it's got to go somewhere, people have got to work, so there it is. Okay, I'll just spin you around and show you a bit more. So from this point here you can actually see a rambler down below there. Looks like it's been a bit of a rock slide. That actually is not passable by sort of four-wheel drive or very easily by motorbike, trust me, I've tried that one. There is quite a few ones further along. If you look on sort of that ridge over there, I'll put an arrow on later. Over there's a nice rambler that comes down there in shaded areas, really pretty rambler, which we'll have to do on another day. You can probably see a road straight across there. That takes you over onto the next level of the Sierras, which is a route we're not going to take today. What we're going to do is we're going to go straight down the back of here on a trail. I don't think you'll probably see it on the camera, and round to the back of the aerials, and then we'll start the climb up to the aerials, which is quite a steep climb and will be a good test of the bikes. A lot of this around the back of here never sees the sun. It's never seen direct sunlight. That's how steep it is and how deep cut the valley is, and obviously it's facing north, so yeah, a lot of these points never ever see any sun. So anyway, we're going to go, I think, move on. This point's only about 5 minutes from the helipad to us to get to this viewpoint. So I think we'll get moving along and get on to the next stage. Okay, so we're moving on from the viewpoint. I suppose the next stop might be the aerials, unless we get too tired, because part of this trail really starts to get serious soon. We're sort of umming and ahhing about whether we're going to go back the way we come or whether we're going to do a complete loop. We'll see how we feel, and obviously how the battery looks as well. We're both running full battery at the minute, so we're okay with that, but that could quite easily change by the time we've gone all the way up to the top of the aerials up that steep incline. So, as usual, I'll go a bit further and I'll bring you back in as and when. So here's one of the areas I was just talking about that never sees the sun. There's meant to be quite a few caves up here, and I've searched for them on various occasions. A friend of mine, his dad is sadly passed away, and we lived here actually during the Civil War. And when the soldiers were coming, they used to actually come into the mountains here and hide in the caves. Well, I've yet to find any real serious caves up here. I've had a quick look many years ago with our son Liam, when he was not much more than a toddler. We were climbing up here and looking for the caves. I've also sent the drone up a few times, but it's not so easy to see with the drone, so I'll have another go at it at some point, no doubt. So we're going steady down here. Anthea, she's struggling with the gravel a little bit. It's freaking her out. And like I say, she's still got to get used to the bike. Again, another shaded area which never sees the sun. Now for this bit here. Lovely and cool, especially today. It's, even though we've got the sun out and it's going to be 17 degrees today, the air's really cool. It's beautiful cycling weather. Particularly pretty down this back bit of the valley. It's a deep cut valley between the two mountains. Good place to be, probably in an end of day scenario where something goes off. You've got protection on both sides here. But hey, I'm not quite that survivalist. So I've just made a quick stop here. You can actually see that was the valley we were looking down on before. You can just about see the industrial estate sort of in between there. and then sort of up the top there with the see the railings up there. That was the viewpoint that we stopped at. Anthea's just catching us up. She's just taking it steady and being sensible, and she's not so keen on the gravel. Put the gravel surface down, you know, as sort of an improvement. To be honest, I'd rather have the mud. And we're coming back down into another shaded bit, particularly deep bit. See if I can get that rock sticking up at the top there. Yeah, a particularly pretty bit again. Never sees the sun. Forestry Commission keeps quite a good check on the trees here and that. They thin them out regularly. They trim most of the trees up to sort of head height, and they clear a lot of the foliage away as well, for purely to stop, you know, fire risk, because once the spark starts here, you've had it. This side of the valley, the trees here are all natural. The other side, which you can probably see when we were at the top there, they've all been planted, but this is all actually naturally grown here. When they do cut them down, they trim these logs out. They leave them on the side of the road for people to cut for firewood. Me and my mate came up and his father, the bloke I was talking about earlier, during from the Civil War. We came up one time to collect all the wood there. We pulled 14 lorry loads out of here and kept us going in firewoods for about 5-6 years. So yeah, that was well helpful, and of course good for them. They don't want firewood left amongst trees up in the Sierras. And so we carry on along. We're going to come down to the bottom of the valley in a minute, and we're going to carry straight on, but I'll bring you back in for that. Okay, so we've come to the junction here. This over here to our right, that takes you down and round and over the mountain range to the next Sierras. We're carrying along here, obviously, around the back edge of this because we want to go up to the aerials. We've still got quite a way to go. We keep going down a little bit, and then we start to do a gentle climb, and then it starts to get really steep and windy. Okay, so we've just stopped. We've just started at a little break for Anthea. We're struggling with the gravel. Apparently, there's going to be quite a lot of cursing for me to edit out later. So I think I'm going to have a look up this rock. I've never been up this rock before. We're quite steep and on the edge here, but I'm careful. I'm going to see if I can get a better view back down the way we've come. There's another point I know for sure we can climb up, and it's really good. Yeah, it's a bit dicey. I have to take my time. It's amazing, isn't it? Look at these trees, how they're growing here. If I try and plant them in a really nice spot, they don't want to grow, but they'll quite happily grow out the side of a rock. Amazing. Whoa. Yeah. There's droppings up here. There's been goats up here. Okay, that's a long way down, so I'm going to be careful. You can just about see the road across there, back there, and going all the way up. And again, you can just see in the distance, hopefully I'll stick you an arrow on to show you the viewpoint up behind there. I think the mountain right in the background in distance is Tatika, 2,080 metres above sea level. Quite a high mountain, probably the highest mountain in the area. So I think I'll carefully tiptoe back down here again. Yeah, there's quite a few goat droppings here. I sometimes see them, but not very often. They're probably making too much noise anyway. Plenty of goats, plenty of boar. We may go and visit the spring that's up here. I haven't been there for quite some time. We may see if it's dried up. Okay, you ready? Go on a bit further? Okay, so here we go. We're starting the climb. And this zigzags back and forwards, all the way up this section. I tried to walk this once. It's quite a long way to walk, and this is about as far as I made it before I turned back and went back home. Many years later, I actually found a deep gully that actually goes straight from the village up to the top here. It's about 4 kilometres instead of the 17 kilometres by walking. Yeah, I'd been here about 15 years by the time I found that. Cuts no end off it. I suspect probably a lot of the villagers who've lived here all their life don't even realise it's there. But that'll be a walk for another day. So again, as usual on the camera, you can't really get any idea of incline, but this is getting quite steep. I'd say we're probably about 20% now at the gas, and it gets steeper still in a bit. We've got concrete on the bends because they don't get washed away by the storms when we do eventually get rain. Here we go, zigzag. Alpha's speeding away, so she's obviously not struggling. On power level 5 at the minute, we've got 9, so Okay, I'll bring you back in a bit. Okay, we're really quite steep now. I'd probably say we're getting on for about 30% gradient now. So it's really starting to get steep. Well, it did do steeper in northern Spain. Some of the gradients were so steep there, it got to the point where I was struggling to keep the front end of the bike on the ground. You know, I needed to pedal quite a little bit hard to get up the incline, but then if I pedaled too high, I'd run the risk of flipping the bike. So yeah, it's not quite as bad as that, but it's still steep enough. That's certainly a good test for the bike. Very pretty down here. We've only seen one person who's been up here. We had one Lycra loony go by, and that's it. Okay, so we got to the top of that climb. We've got sort of a little bit of a downhill, but in a minute we're going to come to a fork again, which takes up to the aerials, and then we've got another quite heavy steep climb up to the aerials. I'm just dropped down onto 3 bars. I don't know how accurate this is, because normally I've got 5 bars I start off with. The 5 bars lasts for ages and drops onto the 4, but the 4th bar doesn't last very long at all and it drops onto the 3. But then the 3 seems to last quite some time. So I don't know, we'll get to the top and then we'll make a decision on whether we're going to do a full loop or just retrace our steps back down. Okay, so we've just come up from the left-hand fork here, and this is the right-hand fork up to the aerials again, quite steep again. If we do decide to do the loop, in any case we will go this way a bit further, because there's the refugee forest style, which is like a forest refuge, which has been renovated. It's got a picnic area, and we'll probably have our dinner there. So we will go that way anyway after we've been up the top, but whether we decide to continue on and go around the loop here is another thing. We'll check batteries, check bottoms, see how sore they are, and make a decision from there. Okay, so we're off again. Final steep bit up to the top to the aerials. You'll probably see the aerials in a minute. And I'll probably stop halfway up. There's a brilliant viewpoint that gives you a view back over the top of the mountain again in a minute. So we'll probably stop up there. This track's considerably rougher. This is where we're going to test for loose rock and things like that. But I think Anthea will probably prefer it. It's the thick gravel sandy gravel that's been giving her the trouble. Anyway, we'll carry on up here a bit further. When I get to that viewpoint, I'll bring you back in and we'll have a look from there. Okay, so this is the viewpoint I was talking about. We're just peeping over the top of the ridge again, at a low point in the mountains, and spectacular view again across here. Fortunately, it's a little bit hazy. If it is a cooler day, it will be clearer. Down below there, I'm not even going to try and point to it. I'll put an arrow on afterwards. That is the gully I was talking about. It was shaded by the trees down there, really windy gully. And that's like a shortcut back to the village. It's about 4 kilometres. Like I say, I only discovered that a few years ago, and I doubt very few people in the village actually know about it, even the Spanish. You see there's spectacular views all the way around here. There are even some higher mountains in the distance. And we're going to be going back up there. Just going to quickly swing you back round here again. I don't know if you're going to pick it up on the camera there. Again, I'll do an arrow, but it's like a mountain over there with a building on there, what we kind of crudely refer to as the tit. Looks like a boot with a nipple on it. We've been up there before, but on the motorbike, and I've been talking about doing a wild camp up there at some point, and that is seriously high. It really looks like you're looking down from the heavens, down at the earth below. So that might be another video in the future as well. If you want to see that video, put something in the comments, egg us on a bit. So, and again there in the distance with the big aerial, that's Tatika, 2,080 metres high. Okay, so we'll carry on and get a bit further. Oh, hang on a second, you can just about see the aerial, the tallest aerial over the top there. So we're heading for that, but of course it's not a straight route, it's not as the drone flies. So yeah, we're going to wind our way up and we'll bring you back in then. Coming up on the left here, there's a trail. I've actually been down there before, and there's little old woodman's trails all the way around in these mountains. They go on quite some way, and you can tell people haven't been down them for years because they've got like saplings like 2 metres high growing up the centre of the road. And normally you get to the end and there's a pile of wood there where they've obviously put a stock of wood and then not bother collecting it. A tremendous view there. And as you see, we're coming up to the aerials. We'll have a look back on ourselves in a minute before we actually go right up to the aerials, because there's not really a view from next to the aerials. We have to carry along a bit further along the ridge, which will take us to the Cruf de Talavera, I'll tell you more about that later. Okay, we stopped here. We've only got this little bit of a track to go up to the aerials. The reason I've stopped here is this is the point where you used to be able to see the sea. You can see a good whole view down below there through the trees, that way back towards the sort of industrial bit in the quarries. But this way, on a clear day across there, you can actually see the sea beyond the furthest mountains. But obviously it looks still hazy over there, it's not clear enough, and so you're not going to be able to see it. Just walk you a little way down here, because again there's another beautiful view across here, back towards a village called Oria. Just about see it over there. Really quite cold in winter. I don't know, it's quite a bit higher. It's sort of 3 or 4 degrees colder more than where we live. But it's still quite nice, although the landscapes, because it's quite high, is a little more barren than where we are. As you can see, quite treeless. Anyway, there's the aerials up there, so we'll continue on up to there, and then we'll bring you in for a chat once we get up to the aerials. Just bringing you back in again because I've only just noticed down below there, I'll put you an arrow in editing, you can actually see the helipad down below there and where we stopped at the fire watcher station. Never noticed that before in all the time I've been up here. Okay, so we're finally up at the aerials. Quite a few aerials up here now. Some there, some up behind here. There seems to be another aerial and more solar panels. You can see a few more around there every time I come up here. When I first started coming up here, which is probably 18 years ago, there was only 3 aerials up here, and there was only one that actually was disused. You know, there's only 2 actually in use. And what we used to do, because this building here, we used to actually go through that door over there. There's a staircase up there, go up through there, get onto the top, and you can actually get high enough for it to see over the trees. Unfortunately, over time, they've, I suppose, health and safety and all that crap, they've locked that door. So then we used to climb up the bars that used to shield these windows here, and then get up onto that bit on there and go up the top. And now they've replaced them with actual steel shutters. So now we can no longer get up the top there, unfortunately. Also notice we've got CCTV here as well, which you can't really blame them about. There used to be some big generators up here, backup generators, and around 2008 when we had recession, there was a lot of poor people about. The benefits of crap here. People weren't getting their benefits, and they had little choice but to make ends meet and put food on the table. So yeah, things were getting stolen, and they had to start putting some serious security in. So we can actually carry along this trail here. It's a little rough trail. We'll probably end up walking this actually along here, and we'll come to the Cruf de Talavera. So we'll walk along to that, and I'll explain to you all about that and what that's all about.
Coming up in part 2 of the adventures of Mac and Anthea. We stop for a spot of lunch at the Cruf de Talavera. Carry on to the Refugee Forestal. And search for an ancient spring. We decide to take the loop back home, but soon regret it when we get lost with very little battery left and start to fear we will never make it home and be stuck in the wilderness for the night. So all that remains is to thank you for watching. Please hit like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll see you again in part 2 of this adventure.